To mask or not to mask? It's a pretty good question. Up until yesterday, the answer was really clear. You wear a mask. But now, with these new CDC guidelines, a lot of people are confused, especially business owners, trying to figure out what to do with customers.
The governor put us in a really tough position by not giving us a day or two to prepare our staffs.
And we spend a lot of time talking about how online misinformation fuels vaccine hesitancy, and we debunk those claims. But why don't we try a new approach? Sitting down with someone who doesn't want the vaccine and asking them why.
Is there anything that would make you reconsider?
Here's the story.
What a way to end the week. What a way to end the week. What's happening out there? What's going on with these masks? Use the hashtag HeyDan. I want to hear from you tonight. Let's talk about it. First, I want to tell you a little story. Last night, I was getting some ice cream. I was with my sons and my wife. We went to Salt and Straw. And when I was inside, there was a man who came in behind me without a mask on. The woman behind the counter was like, sir, you need to put on your mask. I'm sure she has to do that from time to time, right? He, though, was obviously annoyed by this. Even acted a little surprised, despite being the only person inside without a mask on, even with his own party. He then looked at the other people and said, I didn't even bring one. And I thought to myself, here we go. People are confused again about the messaging surrounding masks. And while I think this specific man was also missing some pretty obvious social cues inside, I don't blame people for not quite understanding the deal with masks right now. I mean, think about it. The CDC says vaccinated people can lose them inside and out. The president celebrates the news. There's a great day in America. The masks can come off. Yay, we never thought this day would come. Then Governor Brown and Governor Inslee, they echo the same and say vaccinated people can lose the masks in our state. Then the woman scooping sea salt and caramel ribbons trumps all of them and tells you to mask up or get out. It's confusing. It's confusing. Whether you are a masker or an anti-masker, it's confusing. So, let's try our best to sort it out.
So with that, let's talk to Pat Doris and Maggie Vespa. Pat's going to be discussing this vaccine passport discussion, but I want to start with you, Maggie, because you've been talking to some business owners and some employees and people who have kind of been caught in the crosshairs of this confusion over masks.
Yeah, it definitely didn't take long, right? I mean, if just a few hours after the CDC issued that guidance on Thursday, the owner of the Goose Hollow Inn in Southwest Portland told us two maskless men came up to her restaurant and basically just demanded to be served. And the owner said she told them that the restaurant is still requiring masks until you get to your seat. And here, she says, is what they told her in response.
I needed to be better informed that the CDC and the law was now that they didn't need to wear masks. They were pretty aggressive and rude, and that hurt my feelings a lot since we've been in this a long time.
You hate to think of her going through that. So we just want to make this clear right now. The ironic thing about that story is that those men were the ones who are misinformed. The CDC issues guidance, and then each individual state basically decides if they want to create laws, pass laws or mandates or revoke mandates based on that guidance. But what trumps all of that is that if you walk into a business, they have the right to require masks. Dan, think of it like no shoes, no shirt, no service. We're all used to that. Well, they can now basically add no mask, no service to that list for however long they choose. That's their option.
Right, and the way I understand it is if they also decide to not require masks, they can do that too. But we've been getting a lot of people who are writing in concerned about trusting each other, seeing someone without a mask and actually trusting that they have been vaccinated.
Yeah, there's kind of like an honor system that's going to be a part of this probably at least for a while, especially in kind of like different settings, whether you're in a park or on a bus, on public transit, in an airport possibly, and potentially in businesses. We're waiting on rules from the states. But we've had a lot of people write in, as you said, who are really freaked out about that. And I actually talked to an expert with Oregon State University who's she's a professor, and she's been studying kind of the societal impacts of this pandemic. And she noted, for reasons that are obvious, this is a very politicized time. Everybody is kind of on edge, at least more so than in the past. And she said an issue like this, a lot of people are worried for understandable reasons that it will be really divisive. She also said, though, just keep in mind, we all take risks every day and basically trust each other to be safe around each other. And a good example, she said, is getting behind the wheel. Every time you drive a car, you're trusting that all the strangers around you know how to drive, are sober, can drive well, will make good decisions, and all of those things. And then finally, we just want to drive this point home. A lot of people have just been asking what it means if you sit down next to someone who's unvaccinated and neither of you are wearing masks. And doctors today, including Dr. Fauci, the head of the CDC, have all said if you are vaccinated, you are safe. And they just wanted to drive that point home. So we're doing the same.
Got it. Maggie, thank you. As you talk about things that might be politicized and get controversial, let's turn to Pat Doris and what he's discussing, which is these vaccine passports. It seems as though there's been a lot of talk, will they, won't they happen? It seems that we're leaning a lot closer to will they happen. What do you know about vaccine passports right now?
Right. Well, Dr. Dean Seidlinger, who is the state epidemiologist and way up there in the Oregon Health Authority, was saying today that if businesses decide they are going to allow people to come in and drop their mask, that they will very likely be required to check at the door that people have been vaccinated. And those people have to be able to prove it with like a picture of that vaccine card on their phone. It is what's called a vaccine passport. Here's what he said about it today.
We would anticipate that an establishment, a business, will have to have a system in place for asking about vaccine status and verifying that. Right now, I would anticipate that would be seeing a card with the individual's name, the vaccines they've gotten and the date and where they've gotten them. That could be a picture of that vaccine card or record from their provider on their phone.
Here's the thing, though, Pat. We've been hearing from the top down, from the White House down, that these vaccine passports were not going to be some mandatory thing. And we've also covered several times on this show the legal ramifications that might come along with it, because there are people out there who legitimately cannot get vaccinated. And if they are turned away from businesses, there could be a problem with the Civil Rights Act, with the protection for people who have disabilities. So what is the concern there? What is the thought there moving forward in such an aggressive way with potential vaccine passports?
Well, I cannot tell you on the inside of the OHA why they're doing that. In fact, when I asked them today, I got a very unsatisfying answer, which was only because we need to be able to prove that these people are vaccinated. But I'll tell you, even within public health circles, it's a very unpopular idea in general. I had a chance to talk with Dr. Jennifer Vines today. She's the Multnomah County Public Health Officer. She really does not like the idea. Here's what she had to say when I asked her about it.
I publicly have never supported the notion of a vaccine passport. Very few people have, because it really raises so many other policy questions around enforcement and equity questions around people who just haven't had a chance to get vaccinated. So I've never supported them, and yet here we are with a mask with a mask scenario where it's either on our system or something that looks like a vaccine passport.
One other thing I wanted to talk to you about, Pat, is something that's very confusing to me, because the governor came out yesterday and said, hey, we're going to go with the CDC guidelines. If you're vaccinated, don't worry about a mask. Then I'm hearing something different, that within the individual counties that are at various risk levels, they do have to follow those rules when it comes to masks and occupancy inside and things like that. Can you sort this out for me?
Right. Well, it's a great question because it highlights the crazy confusion that's going on with all this. So we've had these county frameworks of, extreme risk or high risk or whatever, and with those come rules. And overlaying all of those rules is you have to have masks inside in retail settings and you have to socially distance. So that is currently in place, regardless of what the CDC came out with, and as I understand now, regardless of what the governor said. And so until the OHA and the governor signs off on this, comes out with new guidance and new recommendations, you cannot allow your customers to be inside a retail business in Oregon without their mask on, which, we've got a lot of big corporations, nationwide corporations that do business here, like Costco, for example. Apparently, they've not gotten that word, because when I called out to one Portland area Costco and said, hey, if I come in with, do I need my mask? And they're like, no, not if you're fully vaccinated, unless you go to the optical or pharmacy area, then you'll need a mask. So they're sort of forgetting that there is still this state rule in place that you do have to have masks until it's changed.
Pat, can I be confused? Am I allowed to be completely confused by this?
You will join a lot of us. It's a huge confusion piece.
All right. Thank you to Pat and Maggie. If any of you have any questions, they are the people to ask. So get us those questions. Use the hashtag HeyDan. We'll pass them on to them. Thanks to both of you.
My pleasure.
So there you have it. Is everything clear? No, it's not at all. That's okay. I know you just listened to 3 news reporters discuss the topic for like 7 minutes, and you're still wondering, so do I need a mask or not? Should I carry my vaccine card with me or not? No one knows. No one really knows. So for now, stay the course. All right, just stay the course. Have your mask with you. Wear it when you go into businesses. This is clearly going to take some time to figure out. It's annoying. Yes, I know. One of my favorite things about this entire year is when government seems caught off guard by this type of stuff that we have not only been anticipating since day one, but striving for, like getting half the population vaccinated and losing masks. But here we are, and everyone's like, wait, what do we do? Who knew this was coming? Look, be patient for now. Don't forget, please, that we're all going through this together. We've been saying that since the beginning, haven't we? But the last thing you want to do is take out your frustration on other people who are frustrated too, especially the hard-working people serving your food. Let's turn now to our big story. Now, the last time we did a story on vaccine hesitancy, our inbox got flooded with messages from people giving us reasons why they are not getting the shot. So who cares? Why should we talk about people who don't want to get the shot, who refuse to get it for whatever reason, from conspiracy theories all the way on down? Well, see, the more people who refuse, the farther we get from herd immunity and opening businesses back up. We want businesses to open back up. We want herd immunity. And the experts have told us the same thing time and time again. Stop shaming people. Listen to them. Have a civil conversation about why they are hesitant. So, Kristen Severance did.
Do you think COVID is real? I mean, do you think it's a serious threat?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, we all know somebody that's had it.
Jenny Pasternak of Sherwood, Oregon is sure COVID is serious. She's also just as sure she won't be getting the vaccine.
No, I do not plan to get it. My husband does not plan to get it either.
Recent polls show 25% of Americans remain vaccine hesitant, and the reasons run the gamut. The more people who don't get the vaccine, the longer it takes to reach herd immunity, which experts now believe may not happen in the U.S. For Jenny, there hasn't been enough long-term studies.
I don't want to think short-term. I want to think long-term, and what are the long-term side effects? And that only thing we can do is wait and see.
You've been hearing the headlines that we are not going to reach the promised herd immunity.
Earlier this week, the KHW Sunrise crew talked about vaccine hesitancy.
But now we are reaching those people who either are hesitant or are for sure not going to get the vaccine.
There were hundreds of comments why people were either hesitant or flat out refusing. John wrote, "The problem is that there is really no incentive to get the vaccine. Vaccinated or not, you still share the same restrictions with those who aren't vaccinated." That's a common sentiment, but it's not true. John wrote that before the CDC said that people who are vaccinated do not have to wear a mask inside. And Governor Brown announced all counties with a 65% vaccination rate of people 16 or older can move to lower risk. That means more things will be open. And Robbie, who wrote, "It's still in the trial phase. How does anyone know what they're really getting injected with?" This is misleading. All 3 COVID vaccines in the U.S. completed the 3 phases of clinical testing before being approved for emergency use by the FDA. And Dawn wrote, "I got the first vaccine but didn't get the second one because of hearing a recall was going around and people dying from blood clots." This is also false. The J&J vaccine was briefly paused after reports of injury or death from blood clots after people got the vaccine. This happened to 28 people. 3, including a woman in Oregon, died, although officials have not determined if the vaccine was the cause. More than 8.7 million people received the shot. The vaccine was never recalled.
I've been hearing a lot of misinformation.
Cliff Coleman is an associate professor of family medicine at OHSU. He hears from patients who either want more information or wholeheartedly believe misinformation.
But the people who are really adamant that they don't want it are often citing information that's just factually incorrect.
And a lot of vaccine misinformation starts and spreads online. A recent report by Media Matters found 110 active anti-vaccine groups on Facebook. The groups have tens of thousands of members and spread debunked and false claims about the vaccine. Media Matters found even when Facebook recently shut down a supergroup, new subgroups with thousands of members pop right back up.
And it just shows once again that Facebook's enforcement strategies here are very limited and inconsistent and largely ineffective, unfortunately, in controlling the spread of anti-vaccine misinformation on the platform.
The Center for Countering Digital Hate found anti-vax groups have 58 million followers across the U.S. and the U.K. And 65% of the vaccine misinformation shared online originates with 12 individuals and the networks they have around them.
So doctors have the harder job because doctors have to persuade people to go and actually get off their sofas and go and take the vaccine. All the anti-vax industry does is it floods people with misinformation to make them hesitate. And that's all they have to do. This is an asymmetric battle. Doctors have to make people take an action which will save their lives. The anti-vax industry have to make people go, oh, I'm not sure. And that really is done by flooding misinformation into the zone.
But again, misinformation is not the cause of all hesitancy. Some people want more information, some just need more time. So what is the answer? Is there anything that can change someone's mind once it's made up?
But as of right now, no, there is nothing anybody could say to me. If this was like Ebola, I'd be like, oh yeah, I would get a vaccine for Ebola because, you have like a 50-50 chance. So no, I'm not, there's nothing anyone really could say on this one.
But physicians like Dr. Coleman are more optimistic. He believes it will take one-on-one conversations between vaccine-hesitant people and their doctors to turn the tide of hesitancy.
So really the approach is to keep an open mind, recognize that differences in understanding occur.
The Biden administration is now moving away from the mass vaccination sites and sending more vaccines to doctors. That means more conversations about why people are hesitant and maybe more shots in arms.
People don't have the same kind of background training that folks who work in healthcare necessarily do. And trying to be non-judgmental and creating and opening a space for a dialogue is really the key.
I'm Kristen Severance, KGW News.
Now let's take a look at the road to 70% and count some vaccines. More than 2,033,360 Oregonians have gotten at least their first dose. See, I told you I could get that. But it works out to be 58% of the population. That's people 16 and older with at least one shot. In Washington, more than 3.56 million people have gotten at least their first dose, which works out to be about 58% of the population. They are 16 and older with at least one shot. Again, both states need to get to 70% of that population to reach full openness here in Washington and Oregon.
This is old-timey news anchor Dan Haggerty, here to report that ransomware attacks have blasted Portland's Centennial School District back to the dark ages, leaving them with no computers, no email, no internet. Worse yet, it appears hackers have leaked some information to the depths of the dark web. However, will the district respond to this security compromise? We will inquire when the story continues.
Welcome back. No surprise, we're getting a lot of questions about masks, as we should be asking a lot of questions right now. Unfortunately, we don't have a ton of answers, but keep sending them to the story at kgw.com. We'll do our best to answer them. Trust me, we'll work hard to get answers to your questions. So did you hear about the data breach at the Centennial School District? Well, it pretty much shut down a lot of stuff. Their computer system would be the main thing for the last few weeks right now. This week, the district has started to bring some systems back online, but we found out the district data has been posted on the dark web. Our Christine Pitawanich spent the week looking into it.
When anything is posted to the dark web, it's not like you can find it using Google. You need to know where to look, using a specific browser or software. So because the information was shared with us in confidence, we had to verify its validity. And multiple sources have now confirmed it appears data from the Centennial School District has been posted on the dark web in a ransomware attack. This is a screen grab of the site.
Ransomware basically goes in and it will encrypt data on your computer so that you can't access it.
That is, unless a ransom is paid. At the top of the page, a message from the group Babook reads, "Negotiations with another organization from the USA failed. It's a shame. It's a shame. You always try to find a workaround and not pay, but it doesn't work."
What can you tell me about this group that's apparently behind it?
We actually don't know very much about this group. They emerged earlier this year.
Brett Callow and Ken Weston are cybersecurity experts.
You visited this website. What did you see?
It looks like maybe it's a web server or a file share that was compromised. And the information on there doesn't really look critical. It's like, things around accidents, activity trip invoices, things like that.
He says it appears to be a fairly minor attack, especially when compared to the recent hacking incident involving Washington, D.C. police, attributed to the same group.
They had posted information relating to individual officers, and they have threatened to release details on informants to the criminal gangs on which they're informing.
Both Callow and Weston say ransomware is a common problem.
In total, more than 2,000 organisations have had their data stolen and posted online since the start of last year.
And in the pandemic, with school districts all over relying more on computers, they've become a target.
There were about 60 attacks on school districts in 2020. They affected about 1,600 schools in total.
A spokesperson for the Centennial School District sent a statement that said in part, Centennial is still working to determine the full scope of data exfiltrated and published, as well as whether that data contains any sensitive information. The district takes the security and privacy of information entrusted to it seriously, and the district will respond accordingly as it learns what specific information was exfiltrated or published. We regret the inconvenience and worry this incident has caused. Now, there is some good news in that any data that was stolen and posted online isn't easy to find for the average person. Of course, there are people who do know how to find it, and that's the concern. But at the end of the day, there's not a whole lot people can do other than make sure they've got measures in place to protect their own sensitive data and passwords. Christine Pitawanich, KGW News.
Little dark web info on the story tonight. All right, keep sending in your questions and your comments. Use that hashtag HeyDan. We're going to finish the story and the week right after this. Welcome back. I know we've spent a lot of time talking about how confusing everything is right now with these new mask guidelines or lack thereof. But I do think that we're kind of getting back to a sense of, of things feeling, how would you phrase it? Maybe Governor Kate Brown could help me out with it.
Returning to a sense of normalcy. A sense of normalcy.
Is that how you say that word? Is it normalcy? Is it normalcy? Is it normalcy? I'm asking you seriously, do we have any linguistic experts at home? Let me know. Use the hashtag HeyDan. But anyway, I do think it's a great name for our new segment. And our first sign of a sense of normalcy is the fountains. They're back in downtown Portland. They've been shut off since 2019. They were turned off for winter, actually, that year, and they didn't stand a chance in 2020. They never came back on. Parks and Rec says that they closed them out of an abundance of caution, and there was plenty of caution to go around, wasn't there? But this is exciting. A lot of people who live and work downtown love visiting the fountains. You can take pictures in front of the fountain, the Keller Fountain, before you go to the Keller Auditorium. I should mention a future sense of normalcy returning. Broadway shows are coming back a little later this fall. You should know that. Hey, take a lunch break down at the fountain. Maybe you work downtown. Take a little walk. Put your feet up. Enjoy the splashing. Summertime, Portland Parks and Rec, they hold concerts in front of the fountain. The kids love to play in them in hot days. We're back. Oh, by the way, splash pads, they open at parks next month. As much normalcy as you can deal with. Hey, let's read some comments really quickly. Let me pull the phone out here. This one's from Christina. The CDC mask change is crazy. The Oregon approach is even crazier. 599,000 plus American deaths from COVID to date. 713 Oregon cases today. An unrealistic vaccine verification burden, vaccine passports, right, now put on businesses. In my opinion, keep the mask mandate in place until case counts are significantly lower. Keep it simple for everyone. That's a popular opinion. I'm with you. I will say something else. It's very simple. The Cleveland Clinic recently put out a study, said over 99% of people who are hospitalized right now for COVID were not vaccinated. 99% of people hospitalized are not vaccinated. If you don't want to catch this virus, if you don't want it to impact your life, hurt you really bad, kill you, get vaccinated. That also is very simple. Thanks for being with us this week. We appreciate it as always. That's the story. I'm Dan Haggerty. I'll see you Monday.